It's Christine at the Sisyphean Journal. Today's anniversary from the Cemetery of Choice is looking at something that the prestigious National Abortion Federation gave the women of America, Abu, the Butcher of Avenue A, Hayat. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar, the National Abortion Federation is a professional organization of abortion facilities and abortion practitioners. It was founded in the United States. It has moved into Canada, Australia, maybe in other countries now. They promise the moon and the stars as far as safety goes. Now, they do have risk management seminars where they do train abortion practitioners on how to provide abortion more safely. But I'll tell you the truth. If I had Aladdin's lamp and could rub it and have a genie come out and grant me wishes, one of those wishes would be that every single National Abortion Federation recording would be readily available on YouTube and they'd never be able to take it down. You can imagine what else is on those tapes besides how to do X, Y, and Z safely if somebody like me, who despises everything NAF stands for, wishes it was public knowledge. And one of the examples of what I wish people knew is that Abu, the Butcher of Avenue A, Hayat, was, at the time when all hell broke loose, a member in good standing of the National Abortion Federation. I discovered that by accident when I was at Library of Congress and looked at one of their annual reports, and I about dropped my teeth when I saw his name there. So, who is Abu Hayat, the Butcher of Avenue A? Well, let's look at what happened to 17-year-old Sophie when she went to him on September 17th of 1990. Now, Sophie is patient C in these disciplinary documents from the state of New York. You can see this is from the Department of Health. Scroll down. So, in the matter of Abu Hayat, MD, determination and order, and Sophie is patient C. So you can go to the Real Choice blog, and I will also provide the link below to the medical board documents so you can read for yourself all of the badness that was Abu Hayat, dues-paying, card-carrying member of the National Abortion Federation, because it's not just what happened to Sophie. So, Sophie was accompanied by her mother and by the husband of the operator of a facility identified as the Willoughby Avenue Clinic. So, Sophie and her mother made the appointment. They returned the next day and paid $300 for her abortion. Sophie was given intravenous medications to put her to sleep. She was kept for about 4 hours and discharged with a prescription for antibiotics. Now, that evening, Sophie was bleeding, had abdominal pain, and was having trouble breathing. The next day was September 19th, and she was taken to a hospital with vaginal bleeding, chest pain, and shortness of breath. Dr. Harding, who treated her, discovered that Sophie had a perforated uterus and had developed sepsis. So they performed an emergency hysterectomy on her, which would have been bad enough at 17 to have a hysterectomy. But Sophie developed disseminated intravascular coagulopathy, which is a clotting disorder, and septic shock. Sophie died on September 26th. Now, after her death, Hayat denied that he had ever treated her, but Sophie's mother identified Hayat by name and from a photograph. While continuing to deny having treated Sophie, Hayat told one of the physicians who tried to save her life that she'd expelled a fetus at home and come to him for treatment, and he'd sent her to the hospital. But an employee of his named Margie recognized Sophie from a photo and said that Hayat had indeed treated Sophie on 2 occasions. And Margie added that after the second visit, Sophie's mother had called hysterical and crying. And Margie further said that she had seen the medical records for Sophie at the facility, and that Hayat had actually argued with the referring clinic about payments for Sophie's treatment. Now, the case is reported to the district attorney in the New York Health Department, but nobody took any action until all hell broke loose in 1991. That is when Hyatt started an abortion on a young woman, a legal resident alien named Rosa Rodriguez. Now, judging by the amount of money he charged her for the abortion, he knew that she was past viability and this was an illegal abortion. But Rosa reportedly did not realize that she was way past halfway into her pregnancy. So Hyatt took money and I believe her passport and jewelry to hold as collateral until she paid for the rest of the abortion. He reached in, pulled off an arm, and realized that the baby was not only older than he had anticipated, but was not dead yet. And I've talked before in videos about how in these later abortions, it takes a lot of force to use the forceps to dismember these babies. And you can seriously risk injuring the mother, and it's a lot of work. There's a video of a doctor laughing that she needs to go to the gym and work out, and she's got some serious biceps from doing these dismemberment abortions. And you can imagine it's a 20-week baby. I mean, it's about that big from its head to its little bottom. That's not going to come apart really easily with a pair of forceps. So Hyatt sent Rosa home, telling her, if you have problems, do not call another doctor. Do not go to the hospital. Call me. Well, Rosa tried to call when she was in pain, couldn't reach him. She'd gone into labor. She went to the hospital and she delivered a 32-week baby born minus her right arm, which had obviously been severed at the shoulder. And the reason the baby had been able to survive is part of why when you cut the cord, your blood vessels do have little muscles in them, and they are capable of constricting and relaxing. That's part of why you get frostbite in your hands, is when your hands get cold, when your body gets cold, those blood vessels contract so that they can keep the blood in your core. So the doctors who delivered the baby believe that it's the blood vessels contracting that did enable her not to bleed to death. The mother went public. The mother sued. She even went on Phil Donahue. And once that story went public, other women came forward with tales of abuse that you can read on that document that I'm going to link to below. And those include sexual abuse and serious endangerment of these women's lives. And this man was a dues-paying member of the National Abortion Federation at that time. Now, what's the National Abortion Federation? Well, you go to prochoice.org and learn about them. And what they say on their website is right here. NAF is the Professional Association of Abortion Providers in North America. Our member facilities care for more than half the women who choose abortion each year in the United States and Canada. Our members also include public hospitals and both public and private clinics in Mexico City and private clinics in Colombia. Oh, they have moved internationally to places I hadn't known about. Now listen to this. In order to become a member, a facility must complete a rigorous application process. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Member facilities must comply with our standards for quality care, updated annually in our clinical policy guidelines, which set the evidence-based standards for abortion care in North America. NAF periodically conducts site visits to confirm that our members are in compliance with our guidelines. Now, to be fair to them, they do have very high quality clinical guidelines. They are evidence-based, but I have some serious doubts about how well they're actually enforcing them. And we can talk about that a little bit. We have, oh, come on, load. Now, I wrote an article a while back about a National Abortion Federation clinic that had been closed by the state. And oh, that's just showing that this clinic was a NAF member. I've got a copy of this press release. Now, it's out of date, but I pulled it up from the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services. I pulled it up on the Internet Archive. This was in 2013, so that's a lot more recent than what happened to Sophie and what happened to Anna Rosa and her baby. And this talks about that they closed FEMCARE. And FEMCARE, again, I brought up the National Abortion Federation. This was July of 2014. So this was after this trouble. After. Look at their members. FEMCARE in Asheville, North Carolina. There they are, National Abortion Federation member. And I will link to this report from the Department of Health, plus their full survey that they did of the facility. But let's just highlight what they found. A routine survey of FEMCARE, inspectors found egregious violations of existing rules that revealed an imminent threat to the health and safety of patients. I'm just going to read these highlighted areas. The facility failed to maintain anesthesia delivery systems in good working condition, with torn masks and tubing held together with tape. They failed to ensure emergency equipment had weekly checks to ensure the equipment was suitable for use in patient care, and failed to ensure that emergency medicine wasn't expired. They failed to have a resuscitator available. Okay, and you can look for yourself what they were about. Then there's Kermit Gosnell. I talk about him a lot. Now, Kermit Gosnell was not a National Abortion Federation member, but he worked one day a week at a National Abortion Federation member clinic in Delaware. And, okay, so let's look at baby boy A. This is from the grand jury report. This is not from some pro-life site. Remember that Atlantic Women's Medical Services was a National Abortion Federation member clinic. So, one such baby, a baby born alive and then killed, was a boy born in July 2008 to a 17-year-old we will call Sue. Sue first met Gosnell at the Atlantic Women's Medical Services, an abortion clinic in Wilmington, Delaware, where Gosnell worked one day a week. The girl was accompanied by her great aunt, who had agreed to pay for the procedure and who testified before the grand jury. An ultrasound was performed on Sue. Gosnell told the aunt that the girl's pregnancy was further along than she had originally told him, and that therefore the procedure would cost more than the $1,500 that had been agreed upon. It would now cost $2,500. Now, Gosnell normally charged $1,625 for 23 to 24 week abortions. So clearly, Gosnell knew that she was well beyond 23 to 24 weeks. And abortions in the third trimester are not legal in Pennsylvania or in Delaware. The aunt paid Gosnell in cash at the Delaware clinic. He inserted laminaria, that's little seaweed sticks to dilate the cervix, gave Sue pills to begin labor, and instructed her to be at the Women's Medical Center in Philadelphia at 9 o'clock the next morning. That's his house of horrors that I've talked about. Sue arrived with her aunt at 9 a.m. and did not leave the clinic until almost 11 o'clock that night. An ultrasound conducted by Karima Cross, who was not qualified to do ultrasounds other than that Gosnell had trained her, recorded a gestational age of 29.4 weeks. Cross testified that the girl appeared to be 7 or 8 months pregnant. Cross said that during 13 plus hours, the girl was given a large amount of Cytotec to induce labor and delivery. Sue complained of pain and was heavily sedated. According to Cross, the girl was left to labor for hours and hours. Eventually, she gave birth to a large baby boy. Cross estimated that the baby was 18 to 19 inches long. She said he was nearly the size of her own 6-pound, 6-ounce newborn daughter. After the baby was expelled, Cross noticed that he was breathing, though not for long. After about 10 to 20 seconds while the mother was asleep, quote, "The doctor just slit the neck," said Cross. Gosnell put the boy's body in a shoebox. Cross described the baby as so big that his feet and arms hung out over the side of the container. Cross said that she saw the baby move after his neck was cut and after the doctor placed it in the shoebox. Gosnell told her, "It's the baby's reflexes. It's not really moving." The neonatologist testified that what Gosnell told his people was absolutely false. If a baby moves, it is alive. Equally troubling, it feels, quote, "a tremendous amount of pain," close quote, when its spinal cord is severed. So the fact that baby boy A continued to move after his spinal cord was cut with scissors means that he did not die instantly. And that also, of course, means that he didn't manage to sever the spinal cord. All he did was cut the skin. He would cut right here at the base of the skull. All he managed to do was cut through the skin and probably nip into the bone, but did not sever the spinal cord. Maybe the cord was not completely severed. It couldn't have been. In any case, his few moments of life were spent in excruciating pain. Cross was not the only one startled by the size and maturity of baby boy A. They took a picture of the baby, and I'm going to blur that. So, and Gosnell joked that the baby was big enough to walk him to the bus stop. Charming man to have working at your National Abortion Federation clinic one day a week. Now, listen, bad enough, okay? You assume it's an abortion. The whole goal is a dead baby. Okay, he waited till the baby came out and then killed it, but the goal was a dead baby. NAF has no problem with dead babies. NAF is all about dead babies. Supposedly, they're about safety for mothers. Let's listen to what happened to baby boy A's mother. The doctor released Sue to go home 13 or 14 hours after she arrived. Her aunt described her condition. Quote, "She was moaning. She was standing up. She was like holding her stomach doubled over." Close quote. She remained in pain for days and could barely eat. When she developed a fever, her aunt called Gosnell. He instructed the aunt to take her temperature and asked if she was taking the pain medicine he had given her, which she was. But he did not have her come in to be checked out. He did not suggest that she go to a hospital. When Sue started throwing up a few days later, her grandmother contacted a different doctor who told her to go to the hospital right away. Sue was admitted to Crozier-Chester Hospital. Doctors there found that she had a severe infection and blood clots that had traveled to her lungs. According to Karima Cross, who spoke to the aunt, Sue almost died. The teen stayed at the hospital for a week and a half. She became extremely thin and took months to recover, according to her aunt. So this is the kind of care a National Abortion Federation. Sue and her aunt walked into a National Abortion Federation member clinic with a logo on their website and the sticker on the door and all those promises that they inspect and they ensure that the quality of care is high. And still, that's what happened to Sue and her baby. And I don't see how that's any improvement over what happened to Sophie. Although you can say that little Anna Rosa fared better than baby boy A because she only lost an arm and not her life. This is the National Abortion Federation.